This is the third and final video of a series on practical ways to focus on God. We should always be focusing on God because that's to His glory and honor, for He's the only one worthy to be central in our lives, the only one worthy to have the eyes of our hearts fixed on Him. But it's also for our good. Not just to His glory, it's for our good and the good of others around us. So we should always be focusing on God, and yet I think especially we should be seeking to do so when this world seems particularly dark and heavy, when we're tempted to be overwhelmed or frustrated or discouraged or anxious. I've given you 6 different ways to focus on God, and I want to give you 3 more as we finish out this series. So, number 1 today, to focus on God, we need to receive the wisdom of God from others in His Word. To receive the wisdom of God from others in Christ means that we believe the Spirit will work through them for our good. So we need to be in the community of Christ, in the fellowship of the body of believers, in the church. And we need to let the Word of Christ dwell among us richly, so that we're not just talking about politics or culture or entertainment, but we're talking about how all of these things and more interact with and intersect with God Himself and what His Word has to say about all of it. That should be the focus of our conversations most often. And we also need to be receiving the wisdom of God from others in Christ by reading good books, sound, theologically sound, biblically solid books. And maybe, if I could suggest most particularly here, to read the Puritans. They had a way of communicating something of the depths of God, which was richly theological, tethered to the text, and rooted and connected to our hearts. So read men like John Bunyan and John Flavel and Samuel Rutherford and Thomas Watson, Thomas Boston and John Owen and others. Read them and receive the wisdom of God so that we can see God and this world and ourselves more clearly from focusing on Him. Number 2. We need to focus on God by resting in the work of God in sleep. You see, we are working all day long, working whether it's in a job or with our family, working to keep ourselves alive, or working to be pursuing Christ and persevering in the faith. We're always working, but at night we rest. We rest, we sleep. And when we do so, God doesn't. God never, He who keeps us never slumbers nor sleeps. And so we don't have to keep the world spinning. It's never on our shoulders. And sleeping, rest, reminds us that God is constantly working and we can rest in His work, even when we don't sleep. But by sleeping, by napping, by taking a time to rest, reminds us that God is the one who holds this world together by the word of His power. This whole universe is in His hands. And number 3, we need to focus on God by relishing in the wealth of God in Christ. We have an unimaginable amount of riches and the inheritance we have in Jesus Christ. And we have so much of that to experience now, and we have the fullness of it yet to come, promised and guaranteed, secured because of Jesus Christ. So when we look at all the loss that we've experienced, all the loss that we might experience in this world, all the potential for danger and destruction all around us, and all the things that we could lose and that we're afraid to lose, remember how much we've already gained. Focus on God by relishing, reveling in, rejoicing in the wealth of God we have in Christ. And I don't mean just the wealth from God. I mean the wealth of God Himself. We have God in abundance. We have Him, all of Him, promised us in Christ, where we get to be His people, and He is our God now and forevermore. And one day we will have the full experience, the perfect experience of this. So, beloved, let's focus on God in all these ways, because it is to His glory and our good and the good of others as we live in love and in wisdom, peace and joy because of the hope we have as we focus on Him.